YouTube, Captain Mac here, and welcome back to the life of a virtual cargo pilot. Now this is introduction take 2. Apparently my recording program, which is Shadowplay, it does not like it if I start a recording with this on another screen. Last time we flew from Luxembourg, which is the headquarters for CARGOLUX, and we flew over to LFRS, which is Nantes. I'm sure I'm still saying that wrong. Now, Nantes, this airport is definitely not only is it not a destination of CARGOLUX, but it's really not set up to handle aircraft of this size. But that's fine. It doesn't really matter. It's fun to fly to different locations. But that being said, first of all, today we're going to fly from LFRS because that's where we flew into, and we're going to fly up to Stansted Airport, EGSS. Now that is a destination of CARGOLUX. They do fly into Stansted. From there, if you watch the introductions here, I need you to give me some feedback. Do we want to fly? Now we're going to fly out of Stansted no matter what. From there, however, where do you want to go? Do you want to stick with CARGOLUX routes, which is fine, we can do that. But if we do that, that's going to take us out of Europe quickly, right? There's a couple destinations in Europe, but other than that, it's all over the world. It's the US, it's China, it's places like that. And we can do that, and that's fine. But I guess that's a question of whether or not you want to stay in Europe for a little while. If you do want to stay in Europe for a little while, then I need not only do I need you to tell me that, but some destination suggestions. And I'm fine if you want to try something crazy like going into an airport that's really just way too small for this airplane. We can do that. It doesn't matter to me. Now I could always change up delivery. We can fly a different airline, and that's fine too, except that I can't seem to get any other liveries to function with the Salty 747 right now. I have no idea why I'm having such a problem with it, but I can't seem to get it to work. So I'm probably just going to stick with this livery, which I love the CARGOLUX livery anyway. But we can fly it wherever we want. I just need to know what you guys want to do. Do you want to stick with their real world routes, or do you want to pick our destinations as we go? And if so, give me some destination suggestions down in the comments below, and we can start cracking into those. And I think that's it. That's hopefully a relatively short introduction. What do you say we get up in the office and get to work? And welcome to the flight deck, ladies and gentlemen. Two things I want to start with. One, I want to get in the habit of doing, and that's starting with briefing our flight plan for the day. But I also want to point out something I've noticed becoming a regular occurrence in flight sim, at least for me, and that is this guy right here. Can you see him out there? I'm sure you can by now. I don't know what it is, but pretty much everywhere I go now, I see an aircraft, small prop aircraft, usually a tail dragger, just absolutely losing his mind somewhere on the airfield. I don't get it. With that being said, if anybody's got a good suggestion for replacing my AI traffic, so I have it set to I think ultra for the variety, and I see more of these guys, and it may be because I also have it set to pull from models that I have like in my sim, right? So what I've got is I've got what is it called, the King Cub or something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is I think that's part of the reasons I just don't have a lot of models in there for different liveries and different aircraft types and so on. And so it's pulling tons of these. But anyway, what I'm getting at is if somebody knows or has a good suggestion for an AI traffic program or AI traffic add-on for the new flight simulator that will put more realistic traffic in here, listen, I'm all ears. Throw it down in the comments there. Now, let's take a look at our flight plan for the day. So we're departing LFRS. We're scheduled for runway 3. Now, take a look at the weather here real quick. This is, to me, a little strange. So I'm running live weather in the flight sim, and my source through STKP, through Sim Toolkit Pro for weather, is also live weather. And yet they're not matching up most of the time, which I'm finding really strange. So I don't know, but wind is 080 at 8 knots according to Sim Toolkit Pro's weather. We'll see if that's the same when we pull the ATIS, but that would work out well for, I mean, for runway 3 that should work out fine. So just something to keep in mind there. And then looking at our operational flight plan, we are, again, LFRS to EGSS. It's not a very long flight, 354 nautical miles in the air. Blocked fuel is set for 56,770. I'm going to try and put it pretty close to that. We're going to see how it goes. This will already be my second attempt at this flight because I had just a multitude of problems with the last one. And so even though I don't usually mind showing issues, in fact, I don't mind at all. We all have issues with our sim, but it was just, it ended up just being terrible. The whole thing was a pain and it was a mess, and so I got rid of it. All right, I don't want to talk too long about this. So let's take a look. Excuse me. Hold on. All right, coughing in your face there. Taking a look at our route real quick. It's the Balney 3N departure out to Balney, T497 to Renzo, UM184 to Dickrow, UM185 to Lugis, M185 to Teltu, and then the Teltu 1L into EGSS. And right now they're thinking runway 22. That's according to the flight plan that I just created using SimBrief. Scheduled to be out of here, let's see, off blocks at 5:20 Zulu. We'll see if that happens, probably not. And then we've got our weights here. Now, of course, you can pull these real quick by pulling up your load sheet instead. I forgot to change it again. There's not 25 packs on here. There's 2 people in this aircraft. maybe 1 deadheader. That's it. Cargo 239.6 thousand pounds. Payload total is 244.00. Fuel weight 678.6. There's the fuel. There's the takeoff weight. Now I just want to say really quick, I looked at switching it for these flights, you know, in CARGOLUX to the metric system. I've talked about this before. The only reason I chose not to, because I definitely like to accommodate the more realism while trying to keep some entertainment here. The reason I chose not to is because I have to change it in both the sim and in SimBrief, which is not difficult, but I know what's going to happen. I'm going to forget to change it back, and then I'm going to load in a flight for, say, Southwest Airlines for the Life of Virtual Airline Pilot, and then I'm going to have to shut the flight down, change it again, restart the flight, and I just know that for me that'll be a little frustrating. But with that being said, if it is your preference that we fly metric system when we're not in the US and then the standard system when we are in the US or some surrounding areas, if you want me to switch back and forth, I will. If it's something that you think really adds to the flights, I have no problem making the switch. You let me know down in the comments and we'll go from there. All right, flight briefing's already taken too long, so there you have it. That's going to be our plan for the day. Let's get rid of this bad boy and get started. Alrighty, folks, we're going to try and do things a little bit different here, and I'm going to show you what I'm working with here. So normally I kind of do the flows and checklists together, and it does lead to a lot of talking. For those of you who do not know, I do not script my videos. I just kind of go with the flow, and so sometimes that leads to really long videos, and sometimes I do things a little quicker. I'm going to try and do things a little quicker, and the way I'm going to do that is by just kind of going through the flows. I will do a little bit of talking, but I'm going to try and get in the habit of not describing every single detail of what I'm doing and then actually reading the checklist. And there's this awesome little feature in Sim Toolkit Pro that I want to show you real quick that will expand upon this. Now, again, and I'm trying to do things a little shorter, but I do want to talk about this just real briefly. I'm thinking about doing another Sim Toolkit Pro tutorial because it's been updated substantially since the last tutorial, which has gotten a lot of views, still gets a lot of views. People are clearly making good use of it, but with the some of the newer features, the newer layout and so on, I think it might be time for a fresh tutorial on that. With that being said, I will probably remove the old tutorial from the from my video page. You guys let me know if you think that's the best way to go. I don't know, but one of the things I've talked about in the past with Sim Toolkit Pro is the ability to pull up things like your Navigraph charts, which you can see I've got right here, and so I can pull up all the charts I need, and I've got them right here in Sim Toolkit Pro. I don't need another program running. That's fantastic. When I did the tutorial, I showed you how to put sky vector in here, simple enough, and the same thing applies here. So what I did, check this out, 747, this is a normal procedures checklist, right? And what I did is I downloaded a PDF version of this. Well, when I view PDFs, I just view them online, right? You can download PDF and view them that way, but I usually just use the sort of online viewer, I guess is what it is. So I took that web address and put it in here, and so now I can pull up my checklist right here. So what I'm going to try and do, I may not pull this checklist over here every time, or I might. We'll see how it goes. But we're going to go through our flows, and then we're going to go through the checklist real quick, and hopefully that'll speed things up a little bit while adding a little bit of realism, because that's kind of how it goes. And that's not kind of how it goes. That is how it goes in real life. They go through their flows, and then they pull up their checklist. Now the flip side of that real quick is I will go through my flows, and I may do things that are on a later checklist without realizing it, because my flows are not necessarily how they do their flows in real life. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So that being said, we're going to dive into the power up and safety check of the aircraft. And of course it's already powered up. I did that. Oh my goodness, hiccups there. I did that before starting up the video here. I brought the external power onto the aircraft. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start going down my panel here. I want to start the alignment for the IRS immediately. Now, unlike the 737 on this guy, we got to go back to align. So there we go. And then just coming down here, I learned in this aircraft, if you don't have the standby power on, when you switch over to the APU, it messes things up. So we are on the external power. These guys in auto. We're looking good here. We can't do anything with these. These guys all need to be on, and we don't really need to mess with the lights. They're working good. We can't do any fire tests on here. All of our start switches are in. That's looking good. Cross feeds are all on. The rest of the fuel is off. We do need to bring the window heat on. All our anti-ice is in the auto position. All of these lights need to be off right now, and for some reason, that's a switch, isn't it? It's that switch. Yeah. That switch, turn them back off there. Can't do anything with any of this here. So yaw dampers, they're automatically on. Ram air turbine is for complete loss of, it's to provide power. I'm not going to talk about that right now. Cabin altitude control, these guys are on auto. You can adjust these. I just leave them on auto. Why wouldn't you? Recircs are on. Trim air is on. You can't do anything with the packs or the isolation switches. When we get ready to start engines is when we're supposed to turn all the engine bleeds on, and that takes care of everything on the overhead. But we do need to get the IRS alignment taken care of, so we got to jump down here, go into our FMC. Let's see, is the nav data May 19th to June? So the nav data is actually, as of today, is out of date. I wonder, how do you update the nav data in this guy? That's interesting, because I've updated the nav data in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I updated the nav data in my Sim Toolkit Pro. So why is my nav data not updated in here? Something to think about. But let's do our position initialization here. It shouldn't be off by, I mean, the nav data just changed over. So, but that's something. If you guys know how to make sure it's updated in here, let me know down in the comments, because I'm going to look into it, but I'm not sure why it didn't update. Go to our route here, and we'll get into sending our requests and all of that in the short term here. But you can see we've got 4 minutes to alignment on here. That's good. We like to get that started right away. There's no reason to hold up on that. So with that said, that should take care of all of our power up. Let's pull our checklist over here, and again, I'll probably go back and forth between just reading it and showing it. So power up and safety check. The circuit breakers are checked. The battery is on. Standby power is on auto. Hydraulic demand pumps, we can't do anything with those in this aircraft. Windshield wipers are off. Alternate flaps and gear are off. You can't do anything with those yet either. Gear lever is down. Flaps have been checked. We don't have the APU running yet. We'll do that here in a little bit. The electrical system is set with the APU available on. Once that's up and running, APU bleed air is already on. Isolation valves are open and the packs are normal, and that takes care of powering up our aircraft. Alright, so next is going to be our pre-flight, which really involves pretty much everything else we need to do to get the aircraft ready to go, and leading up to our before start checklist. So we're going to dive in first with the FMC down here, if I can click on the right function there. We've done our initialization. We're going to send the request for our flight plan here, and of course it loaded immediately, which is always nice. So we'll load that in. Flight number CV9737. Now I know that it's CLX, but for whatever reason their numbers are CV. Their flight numbers are CV. I don't know why, but that's what it is. Maybe somebody does know. You don't actually have to click activate. I should have, just out of habit. Keep in mind also that when we get to a more in-depth version of this aircraft, whether Salty presses on until they have all the features available, or if we just wait on a PMDG version, whatever, there's a lot more to happen than what we're going to be doing right now, but this is what we got for now. This is what we're going to roll with. Just taking a real quick look at our active route, jump into our departure and arrival here, and so real quick, let's listen to the ATIS. We haven't done that yet. It's going to be 126.930. Let's listen to the ATIS and see how the wind matches up. 126.930. There we go.
Notes airport information, India 0400 Zulu. Wind 080 at 10. Visibility, tree. Sky condition, clear. Temperature, tree 5. Dew point, 10. Altimeter, tree 0.12. ILS Yankee runway 03 in use. Landing and departing runway 03. VFR aircraft say direction of flight.
Okay, we're good there. So the wind is very close to what it is in Sim Toolkit Pro, so I'm happy about that. Yeah, there was something else I was going to say, but I forgot what it was, so it obviously wasn't important. But the wind's going to match up, which means runway 3 is going to work well for us. And so we'll set that up for our departure here. My chair squeaks like crazy, and I keep hitting the wrong button there. Okay, so it's going to be runway 3, and then it's the Balney 3N departure, and it doesn't give us an option for transition, but that'll be out at Balney. So we'll execute that, and then if you double check it on the legs page, you can see, I don't know why it's putting the waypoint in twice. You can see there's no distance between this waypoint and this waypoint. It just is there twice. Not really sure why. No discontinuities in our route right now. We could probably put in our arrival right now as well, which if you remember from our flight briefing, is going to be the TEL2 1 Lima, I believe is what it is. So if we go departure arrival, and then you got to click index because we're still at our departure airport, and then we're not going to choose our runway yet. We're just going to choose our TEL2 1 Lima, and we're going to put that in there. We'll just execute that, and then you go back to your legs page and you'll see, so when we get out to TEL2, and then it's not actually showing anything else in there, which is kind of weird. Yeah, I'll take a look at it when we get to that point. Not too big of a deal. I'll get it sorted out. But there you go, there's that. And then I usually just click route again, and that takes me back here to performance initialization. And we're going to send our request here. Now, I haven't done fuel yet. I did want to do that, so let me just pull up our load sheet over here real quick again. And so we're, for fuel, we are looking at 56,770. So I'm going to put it pretty close this time. Now you have to load fuel with this thing. So there you have it. Oh, the thing I was going to say is the ATIS is part of the reason I would have to switch the system, the units of measurement in the sim, right? So if we wanted to do, if you want me to switch back and forth, the ATIS will read in metric, you know, it'll give us the QNH instead of the altimeter, or not the QNH, the, yeah, isn't it called, it's called QNH or altimeter, I think. Either way, it would give it to us in hectopascals, or is it millibars, I think. Haven't worked with metric much, as you can tell, but either way it would give us, you know, whatever that is in the metric version on the ATIS if I switch it. So I got to switch it back and forth, which I'm willing to do if that's what you guys want. Okay, enough talking about that. So if you look down here, here's our current fuel, and then this is our max fuel. So we're supposed to be at 56,770. Now it is a little hard to fine tune this, so what we're going to do is just kind of it's not much fuel either. I am going to make it a little higher. We'll go with 58. I have such a hard time trusting that. I'm going to go a little higher than that. Let's go with 67. So that's about 10,000 pounds more than what we're actually scheduled to have. And then looking at our payload, so here the total payload right now is at 76,540, but it's supposed to be at 243,950. So we'll change our payload to around 243, which makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? So 243,950. So the closest I can get is under that, 211. I'm gonna go with that. That's the closest we can get to the actual proper payload. Okay, so that's what we're setting it at. So there we go. Everything's loaded in there. Now we're gonna send our request and see what it says. Let's make sure our zero fuel weight's right. Is it right? Did that change? I didn't even notice, to be honest with you, because this was covering it. So zero fuel weight right now is 728. That should change if I move this. Yeah, it did. Okay, so if this was 56%, come on, it's so hard to fine tune that. Okay, so we'll leave that there. Okay, so it's looking at flight level 180. It is a short flight, but I'm gonna tell you that's still a little low. So we're gonna take it up to last time I did it, I went up to 320, which I think was a little high. I'm gonna take it to 260. That's gonna be our flight level, if it lets me. Oh, I have to accept it first, don't I? Let's try it now. 260. There we go. Cost index 250. I'm going to leave it at that because it should be pulling that from the flight plan through SimBrief, because I've got that set up in here. Thrust limit. Still not sure how I feel about this, because I'm going to tell you right now, when I did this on the last one with the load pretty similar, this takeoff was cutting it way too close. Like, we barely got off the ground at the end of the runway, and in real life, if those trees were there, which they're probably not in real life, we would have hit them. Anyway, I'm taking too long on this, so we're probably not going to use the toga mode. I'm probably going to just full thrust it myself, because we're going to need more thrust. Go to the takeoff page. Flaps 10 is the only thing that's going to let me put in there right now. Center of gravity 6.0. It doesn't matter if you do anything with that. It'd be nice if it gave me a trim, but it doesn't. And then click on these, and it should give us our V speeds. Okay, and so 138, 152, 170, that takes care of that. Let's jump up here and get things set up. We haven't done our departure briefing yet, but we don't have any altitude restrictions that we need to concern ourselves with, so I'm just going to scroll this up to 260. That's 269. 260, if I can get it. And then we're 3012 on the altimeter. I'll zoom this in a little so that you can see it. 3012, that's actually really high pressure. 3012, there we go. And then 170 is our V2, so we want to be, I like to be V2 plus 10, so I'm going to go with 180 up here. LNAV and VNAV can be armed at this point. And what else we need to do here? FMC is set up. Overhead's pretty much set up. I'm just trying to think if there's anything that I'm missing. So when you do your flows, right, so in real life they memorize their flows, and for the most part I usually don't miss things, but of course making a video I want to make sure I don't miss something. There are a couple things that we actually need to take care of. We need to set our squawk code down here. We're going to set it 2336, and then we're going to put this to TARA. The test doesn't work on this, so just something to keep in mind. And we'll hit the traffic button on here, and if there's any traffic around, that should let us know. And what else? I don't think there's anything else, guys. I think that's the bulk of it. Let's take a look at our checklist, and that should let us know for sure if we've missed anything. I'll bring it over here again. So this is the longer checklist here. It's the pre-flight. So emergency equipment is checked, and again, if we have a more in-depth aircraft, a lot of this stuff will be stuff that we have to do. So emergency equipment is checked, fire protection is checked. Those don't work on this aircraft. Interrupt switches, I'm not sure what interrupt switches are, but they're supposed to be on. PAX oxygen is normal. Stab trim cutout switches, those don't work, it's auto. Nav equipment is checked, oxygen interphone checked, gear pins are stowed, flight deck lights are set. That's you know, your backlighting and your overhead lighting and all that set to where you want it. Not sure what serviceability means on this, but it's checked. FMC, we've got it set and it's checked. Crew briefing has been completed. EEC buttons are normal. IRS, we do need to set that to nav. I haven't done that yet. So the IRS alignment is complete, as you can see, and that's why I didn't think about it. But you do need to, if I can get to the overhead here, you do need to roll these back over to nav now. They're still on the line. So we'll put them back over here at nav, and that takes care of that. And then continuing down our checklist here, I'll bring it back over for you. Hydraulic system is set, emergency lights are armed, audio system normal, interphone switches off, anti-ice systems are actually on auto, window heat is on, yaw dampers are on, voice recorder is on, pressurization is set, air conditioning panel is set. Now, this might be a 747, it's a 400 checklist, I didn't even notice that. I'll have to look and see if I can find one for the 800 because it's going to be more accurate, but we can press on with this one for now. Exterior lighting, IFIS control, mode control, standby instruments are all set. Speed brakes are retracted. Thrust levers are down and closed. Parking brakes are not set, I don't think. Because they are set. By default, they usually aren't. So parking brakes are set. Fuel control switches are all cut off. Communications are set. Radar is set. No smoking sign doesn't even exist in an aircraft anymore, but we can put the seatbelt sign on. EVAC signal is armed. Not sure where that is, to be honest with you. Transponder is set. Source selectors are set. Clocks. You can't do anything with the clock in here. That's one of those little things that I was kind of bummed about. You can't do anything with the clock. But the clocks are set. I don't know what CRT selectors are, but those are normal. PFD is checked. Nav display is checked. Auto brakes, I guess we can go to RTO now. I thought that was going to be before takeoff checklist, but heading reference switch is normal. FMC master selector is left. That's on these guys over here. So that's our source selector, right? So FMC source selector should be left, but we can't actually do anything with that. And then ground proximity system is checked, and that takes care of our pre-flight checklist, minus obviously the things we can't do anything about. Okay, so really quickly, I did go and download a different checklist before jumping back on to the recording here. I don't know that it's really that much better, but it does have all the flows and then checklists on it. And I'll just show it to you real quick so you see what I'm going to be working with here going forward. So what you see on here, these are the flows, right? This is everything you got to do, and then this is the checklist. So if you go up top, you've got just the checklist here, which we could use, but what I'll be doing is I'll have this on the other screen that I can just reference. So when I'm doing my pre-flight, I can reference all of these things, just going down the list to make sure I'm good. And then when we get done, then there's the checklist right there. And so that's going to roll us into our before start flows here, and then our before start checklist here. And that just kind of makes sure that we're on track. Now, the first thing I want to do before we actually start our before start flows, just the pre-flight does include the starting of the APU, right? So let's just start that up while we're getting set up for other things here. And I just accidentally fat fingered a button there. I want to try and set up the pushback. Now, I can get it to work sometimes, and sometimes I can't. Let's see if we get it to work here. We'll pre-plan pushback. And luckily we don't have to go super far, so rather than zoom it out, I'm going to just click and slide, use the mouse wheel here, and I'm going to set it right about there, and then just click, and that sets that position. Then you hit enter, and now it's in there. And so that's what we're going to use for our pushback, and hopefully everything will work out. Last time when I recorded this video on the last one, there was no tug in front of us, and because there was no tug, we didn't get any audio. So if that happens again, I'll show you how that works. Pretty simple with the program here. So we want to make sure that our doors are closed and locked first. So which ones? That's the doors page there. Simple enough to verify. If they say A, that means they're armed. If they're open, there's a little yellow box there. On the last time I tried this video, I actually left one open. That's how I discovered that I wasn't getting the audio from the pushback, because I wanted to see if they'd tell me the door was open. The hydraulic demand pumps, we can't actually change them, but the way that it's supposed to go is pump 4 over here is supposed to be on auxiliary, and then the other 3 are supposed to be in auto. So these would be auto, this would be auxiliary, but we can't do anything about that. We do need to get the fuel pumps on here, so we'll jump up here and do that. We've got fuel in all the mains, and that's it. I believe it's in all the mains, and we can double check that as well. Again, this is one of the nice things in this Salty sim. There's a lot of features that aren't in the regular one. So you can see that we've got fuel in all the mains, and then that's it. Jump back to this view for the moment. LNAV, VNAV, we've already armed. Pack control selectors, we can't change those, but technically numbers 2 and 3, so these 2 over here should be turned off for the start procedure. And then the beacon light is supposed to be on both, and because for whatever reason in this aircraft my lights are, I don't know, they're on switches. I could turn them off, but I just didn't bother. So we can see that the APU gen's available, so we'll accept that now. Get rid of the external power. This is where if you switch this over and your standby power isn't on auto, which I made that mistake once, then what happens is your right displays shut off, and I don't know, you just don't have proper power to the aircraft. Let's go ahead and get rid of our power now. That's the guy parked out there. And that brings us up to our before start checklist. So hydraulic demand pumps on auxiliary, fuel load and pumps are verified and on, the APU is on, beacon is on both, doors are closed, locked, and set to auto is what it says on here, and then the passenger signs are on. And that brings us up to our pushback, which we're going to go ahead and roll right into right now and start the engines while we're at it. Now the engine start process is very simple on this. If you're not familiar with it, there's an auto start is what it is. So normally in the 747-400 there was an auto ignition and continuous ignition switches up here. We don't have those anymore. So this aircraft, now I'm not sure how accurate that is to the 800, but in this particular version it's just an auto start, so it's really simple. So we make sure that our hydraulic demand pump 4 is set to auto, and I'm doing this this before start, or I'm sorry, I'm looking at the after start. I don't know why I'm doing that. See, because I changed it up and I'm doing something different now, I'm allowing it to confuse me. So let's go to this guy, let's request pushback. Now, normally by about now we should be hearing something, and we're not. So here's what will happen is when I release the parking brake, you can do it here or do it down here. See the hold button there, right? So right now it's on hold. If I click this, they'll start to push. See, it immediately starts pushing. So I'm going to go ahead and just let them push back. We gotta have a tug, I guess, to be able to talk to somebody, which makes sense. So they're pushing back. We can roll right into our engine start. Let's put this on the engine page and make sure all 4 of these guys are on. See, that should be on the before start checklist if you ask me. I didn't see it on there though. But either way, we're going to start with 1 and 4. So just left click each of these guys here. That's 1 and 4. And then if you zoom down here, you can see they're on auto start. We'll see how the pushback goes here. Normally I would have my cameras on the other side over here so that I could just pop to another view if we wanted to, but instead I got to do this now. So let's pop to that view and close that real quick. It's funny to watch the plane pushing itself back, right? But it should be putting us with the nose right about here. So we'll see how that works out. It's probably going to drive us across the grass there. I don't like having to do that to hop in and out, but there we go. And I'm going to continue the pushback and the start, and probably do that fancy little fast forward in time so that you guys don't have to listen to me bump my gums the whole time. Alright, so that's got the engines up and running now. Let's take a look at our after start flows here. The APU, it's as required. We're going to go ahead and shut it off. We don't need it on anymore. So first of all, we'll take the APU gens off, turn the APU itself off, and then the APU bleed off. Now I did notice that the engine bleeds were not part of the before start flows or checklists on this particular checklist that I have here. Normally I would have a hard copy and I can write that in there. So I just have to remember to do it, apparently. Hydraulic demand pump 4 would go to auto. We can't do anything about that right now. Pack control selectors are normal. Again, we can't change those. Aft cargo heat switch, we can't do anything with that. Engine indications are normal. Oil quantity checked after 30 seconds. It's good. Nacelle anti-ice is on auto. Auto brakes are set to RTO. Flaps for takeoff is going to be flaps 10. There's 5, and then down, let it scroll all the way down to 10. We're supposed to set the trim. I'm not sure how well you can see it down there. Let me get to the right view. There we go. It's at 7.5. I don't think that's enough. I'm going to set it right on the edge of the green there. I'm assuming the green is supposed to be, what do you call it? Our, like, we're supposed to be within the green because the FMC is not giving us our trim setting. I'm still not thrilled with the thrust limit here. I'm really not. I mean, 85%. Let's see if it'll let me, maybe if I just type in 90. Yeah, see, it doesn't let me change it. I'm telling you right now, this aircraft is heavy. I mean, if we go to our performance page, our zero fuel weight is 728,000 pounds, and our runway length is 9,514 feet. That's going to be cutting it a little close, to be honest with you. Let me see something here. So I'm just looking. The bottom of this checklist I have has some useful information on it. It's part of the reason I went with this one. We got speed limitations. We got weight limitations in pounds and kilograms. So if you guys do want me to use the metric system, it's available. We've got our flap extension speeds and then our auto brake landing distances, which is all fantastic. And we can make good use of that, but unfortunately it doesn't tell us anything about takeoff performance and takeoff distance, so that's kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. I don't think that 85% N1 is going to cut it. I really don't. Nonetheless, I'm going to give it a try. It's supposed to have to do with the outside air temperature. I don't know what the select, it doesn't let me change this either. See, out of range, what if I put it at 35? Will it let me? But that doesn't change this. See? So that's the problem there, is it doesn't change it. Oh, now it's out of range again? It was at 20 before. Okay, well, because it doesn't let me change that, it doesn't let me select takeoff B, and even if I select a different takeoff, it doesn't change it. So I don't understand that. Maybe somebody understands it better than I do, but we're probably not going to use the toga mode for takeoff. I'm probably just going to go to max thrust, and then I'll have the auto throttles armed, if that makes sense. Okay, moving on here. Oops. You can't scroll on the left screen without selecting it. Otherwise it scrolls the zoom in and out. Where are we at here? Auto brakes flaps are set, stab trim has been set, rudder and ailerons are set to 0, flight controls check. We haven't done that yet, so we can jump over here. Flight. Now you notice I'm reading through the flows, because even though most of it is somewhat second nature to me, I'm by no means 747 pilot. So, and I switch aircraft a lot, so I forget things all the time. That's our flight controls check. Can't do the recall on this one, unfortunately. I think that's kind of silly, but that is what it is. Yeah, I mean, they are putting functions. I'm not complaining. The guys who are doing the salty 747 are doing an amazing job, so it's not a complaint, just more an observation. And then we confirm our ACARS off block time. That takes us to our after start checklist, which also acts as our before taxi checklist. At least for me it does. So the APU selectors as required, the packs are on, recall status is checked, reference speeds are checked, flaps are set as required, trim is set as required, flight controls are checked, auto brakes are RTO, taxi lights would come on at this point, which, see if I can get the right one here again. Nope, all of those. There we go. Taxi lights come on. I'm going to break away for just a second, get my track IR set up, and then we're going to be ready to rock and roll. Alrighty, we got everything ready to go. Track IR coming on. A little jump here. Tiny little jump on that one. Let's make sure we get that park and brake off. And as we start to taxi out here, we will, of course, take care of the taxi and departure briefings. And then maybe a little bit of cinematic in there. You guys need you to let me know down in the comments if you like the cinematics, because if you do, great, I'll keep doing them. And if you don't, what's the point? no sense in doing them if you guys don't like them, right? So let's roll into that. Alright, let's take a quick look at our taxi and departure briefings here. So I'll zoom this in just a little bit for you, makes it a little easier to see. You can see where we're at on the airfield here. That's probably zoomed in too much. The zoom function is a little funky on this. Anyway, ATIS on 126.930, we did listen to that. Nantes ground on 121.655 and tower on 18.650. Obviously, taxi is going to be pretty straightforward. We're taking runway 3, so this hotspot's not going to be a concern. We're going to come up Romeo Charlie over here to, I'm not sure, this is Romeo, right? Should be the Romeo taxiway. And then this is Alpha down here. Sometimes I have a hard time figuring out which taxiway is which. I wonder if you guys have the same problem. But either way, we'll taxi down here, hold short of runway 3. Not too difficult. Now, there are tons of taxi charts here, right? And these are all airport briefings and so on. And unless you guys want me to be reading through those, we're going to press on. It's going to be the Balney 3N departure for us today. Because we're taking runway 3, which is this side down here. It's up to at or above 540 feet. We're going to make this left turn, come over here and connect with Wickmo, and then we're going to take that straight out to Balney. Transition altitude is 5,000 feet. There may be a way to get it set in this Salty 747, but I haven't really looked that deep into it yet. So, but I just need to try and keep that in mind. And other than that, the narrative portion down here tells you the same exact thing. So if you look here, again, let's zoom it in so that you can read it. So for runway 3, climb on 028 track to 540 feet, then a left turn to 355 track to Wickmo, then out to Balney. So nothing too difficult there. I think we're going to be good to go. That takes care of our taxi and departure briefings. Alrighty, we're holding short of runway 3 at this point. Let's get her ready for takeoff. The cabin report is, we don't have a cabin report. We don't have weather radar on this. We do need to arm the auto throttle. I've made the decision that I'm going to try and use the toga. We're going to see how it works, but I don't have a lot of hope for it. So I'm going to be honest with you, because I can't change that. I need you guys to just give me a little bit of understanding if we have a really low and inappropriate takeoff on this one. Transponder code is good. Mode is TARA. Bias we can't change. Packs 2 and 3 are going to remain on. And so we want to get the landing lights on. On we go. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the taxi lights and the runway turn-off lights off, even though technically we do want them on. So before takeoff checklist, vital data has been checked. Packs are set as required. And the only cabin crew is us, which has been notified. So, let's see if we can get this back. It's not supposed to just jump to this view for me, but it doesn't do it sometimes. Tracker coming on a little jump here. That was a little crazy. My, oh, that's just acting so weird. Yeah, my track, I think maybe I need to restart my track IR or something, but I'm going to leave it for now. We'll work with it. Let's get the brakes off. Now, one thing I noticed isn't on there is arming the spoilers. So we've got the spoilers armed now. Let's go ahead and roll her out on the runway. Come on. Bird is fat right now. And that's why I just don't trust, even with a 10, it's more of a crosswind. It's not even a headwind because it's at 080. So our headwind component is probably about 7 knots. That's a guess. I don't know how to do the math on that off the top of my head, but either way, 85% thrust? I don't know, guys. I think we're awfully heavy for 85% thrust. Now, to be fair, the engines on this new 747 on the Dash 8 are quite powerful despite being so much quieter. So, I mean, technically, it should have substantially more thrust than what we're used to in the 747-400. Whether or not that plays out, I don't know. So I don't see any traffic coming. We can, of course, check the approach. I don't see any airplanes on approach. I don't see anything on my nav display. So I think we're probably good to go here. Now I want to use up every last square inch of this runway that I can use up. So I'm going to really keep it close to the threshold of the runway here and try and make a nice tight turn. which we'll try right about there. That's probably going to slow us down, so I'm going to throw a little bit of asymmetrical thrust on that left side just to help bring us around. And I don't want to get too far down that runway. I'm going to need every last bit of it. So we're probably not quite lined up in the center there. That's all right though. We're gonna deal with it. So that's not too bad. Center line is a little weird on here. Now I'm going to tell you, this airplane, for whatever reason right now, seems to be pulling to the right. It was doing it the entire time I was taxiing. Not really sure why. Let's look at the gear here. Do we have flat tires or something? Everything looks good. All the pressures are equal now. So I don't know. It was pulling pretty hard to the right, so I have a feeling it's going to do that during the entire takeoff roll. So something to keep in mind. Either way, we're going to hold the brakes on. We're going to get her up to about 70%, which is pretty close to our takeoff thrust. But there we go. That's 65. Release the brakes and toga. And they should go up to, yeah, see, it's pulling hard to the right for some reason. No idea why. Obviously, we should get some pull to the right because, yeah, look, it still isn't even at takeoff thrust. I don't know, guys. We haven't even hit 80 knots yet. I don't know if I trust this. We're still not at V1. We might have to reject takeoff here. We're starting to come up quicker. I think we might make it. V1. Well, we're committed now. There's rotate. Let's get this fat bird up in the air. Look at that. It's using all of that runway. Ooh-wee. Okay, positive rate of climb gear coming up. That was not even close to being enough nose up trim. I mean, I was pulling hard on that yoke, you guys. Let's start this left turn here. Not even close to being enough nose up trim. I'm still trying to nose up trim and hold the yoke back. Now we're starting to get her in there. That was a little ridiculous. So clearly that green line doesn't really mean much of anything. I mean, look at what our nose up trim is now. It's almost at 15 just to hold it. Bring it down a little bit though, because now it's getting to be a bit much. Just following my flight director as best I can here, bringing back in some nose down trim. It does react a little slow to the trim adjustments, so something to keep in mind. Alright, let's get her on course here. Let's go ahead and we'll engage the autopilot at this point. I do enjoy the hand flying, but let's let the aircraft take control itself here. Just watching my flap settings right here. Once that goes above 5, we can bring the flaps up to 5. There we go. And once it goes above 1, we can bring the flaps up to 1. Remember, 5,000 feet is our transition altitude. We can go to flaps 1 now, and then once it goes above, if you can't see what I'm talking about this right here. So once it goes above up, that means we're above the minimum maneuvering speed for flaps up. Now, obviously, we're going to be over 250 knots because we're really heavy, which is again why, let's get the flaps up, which is again why I did not trust that takeoff. Now it worked out. The trim was way wrong. Yeah, the trim wasn't even close, but we did have enough speed and power to get off the runway on time. So I'm grateful, or well, maybe grateful is not the word, but I'm happy for that. Let's get the track IR off here, and let's see here. Yeah, I don't know. There's a few things that just aren't functioning properly. I don't know why. There's we're over 5,000 feet, so we'll go to standard now. And just continue our climb here. Let's take a look at our after takeoff checklist. The landing gear is up, the flaps are up, packs would be on, exterior lights are as required, altimeters to standard at this point, and the APU off, which it was already off anyway. And that takes care of our after takeoff checklist, and that means, ladies and gentlemen, you guessed it, it is time once again for some of the obligatory elevator music. Alright, let's take a look at both our arrival and our approach briefings. We will check the ATIS as we get closer to the approach to be sure, and hopefully we don't have to make a change because it might be a bit of a pain, but it'll be what it'll be. The arrival today is going to be the TEL21L. Now the ATIS is going to be on 127.180. I can tell you right now 114.550 doesn't work. So it'll be 127.180, transition level by ATC. It'll actually be, I think it's 6,000 feet. We'll see when we do the approach briefing. But we're coming in out here at TEL 2. We're supposed to be at 19,000. I couldn't get the aircraft to do it last time. Not really sure why. We'll see how that works out. Then it's down to Baton, and then it's BPK, which is the Brookman's Park VOR, and then out to the Barkway VOR, and then swing around to Laurel. Now, I know that looks weird, but that's actually what we have to do for the approach, which probably has something to do with just the way the city's set up. Keep in mind also that Heathrow is right here, so not very far away, so that's probably part of why this is set up the way it is. All of that in mind, let's roll over to our approach briefing, because then it actually gets kind of stranger. You won't see it on this chart so much, but because we're going to be landing on ILS runway 22, we're going to go from Barkway VOR out to a waypoint out here. So basically we're going to go over Barkway VOR, and we're going to make a circle over here and then come out over here, and you'll see what that looks like on the FMC or on the nav display here shortly. But let's go through this briefing real quick because I don't want to take too long. Again, ATIS on 127.180, radar or approach is on 120.625. Tower for us is going to be whatever ATC assigns. We're not going to be talking to the tower or ground, but there's your frequencies. Localizer frequency is 110.5 with a final approach course of 222 degrees. Glide slope intersect at 6.6 nautical miles from ISX at 2,500 feet. Minimums will be down below here. We'll get to those shortly. Airport elevation is 348 feet, and the runway touchdown zone is 348 feet as well. Minimum safe altitudes in the area depends on where you're at in relation to the airfield, which would be the center. And again, transition altitude is 6,000 feet. There it is right there. Missed approach procedures: climb straight ahead to not above 3,000 feet at 3.1 nautical miles from ISX. That's the brain doesn't want to work here. That's the ILS. Anyway, that's the ILS. 3.1 nautical miles from that, we're going to turn right onto the 173-degree radial inbound at distance 8.02 Barkway. So that should be out here is where we should be inbound, I guess. And then it's continued climb as necessary to the VOR at 3,000 feet or as directed. So we're not going above 3,000 feet. That's going to have something to do with Heathrow being in the area. I guarantee that. Let me zoom this in just a little bit here so you can see what that looks like here. Pretty straightforward, simple stuff. We want to come in at 2,500 feet at FF22, and that'll be where we intercept the glide slope. Happy lights are going to be on the left hand side. I forget what HILE stands for. I did do a full tutorial on lighting, and it includes what those abbreviations stand for. This is just sort of another way of looking at your missed approach procedure, and my brain just isn't working today. We should be Cat 1 today, so our minimums are going to be 200 feet to radar altitude of 548 feet. MSL, and that is it. I just kind of stumbled my way through that, didn't I? So that takes care of the briefing itself. Real quick, I'll just show you on here. If you jump over to the plan page on here, put this on legs and step through. I'll zoom it down a little. You're going to need it to be a little closer, and we're going to be at top of descent here in a little bit. So stepping through here, let's just go next page. Okay, so there's BPK right there. Let me get to a different view so you can see this. So there's BPK, all right, and then we're gonna go from there to the Barkway VOR and then out to Busta, which doesn't show up on that approach chart, but that's what came up when I used Laurel as the transition. So out to Busta, then over to Laurel, then back across BKY. So you can see it just like that, little circle. Hopefully it doesn't try to fly it as a triangle, and then out over here. And I didn't add these waypoints, so the BKY 10 I didn't put that in, the D067K I didn't put that in. The system did it on its own, so that's going to bring us around here to CF22, and we should be at 500 feet by the time we get there. And then FF22, that should be our glide slope intercept point there. So hopefully that sort of helps get you an idea of what's going to be going on there. All right, put that back up there a little bit. Jump back up here, and let's see. If I put this on the progress page, it tells us we are 84 nautical miles. You probably can't read that, can you? 84 nautical miles from top of descent. So again, with our with our arrival, I don't know why, I just can't seem to think. Remember, this is not scripted. This is all on the fly, people. I'm making this happen in real time, okay? There is the only altitude restriction is to be at 19,000 feet at TEL2, and if you're concerned, now watch it zoomed in again. Yep. Go to your legs page here, TEL2. It says flight level 260. That's not going to work for us, so we're going to go / 19,000. Now watch, this is going to change our top of descent. It's not even going to let me do it, is it? Not even going to let me do it. Okay, well, I guess we're not going to be at 19,000 feet at TEL2. I mean, I could do it manually, but I'm just not going to mess with it. I don't know why, that's weird that it's not, I mean, we're only 12 nautical miles from it, so I guess that makes sense. But top of descent is still not even showing up on here. What the heck is going on? Doesn't even show top of descent anymore. Okay, well, I guess we're going to see what happens here. Let's just go ahead and put this into the descent mode here. And look at it. It immediately goes to VNAV path, but it's not descending. Okay, so we need to get to... it threw me for a loop, guys. I don't know why it's doing this. We need to get to 2,500. So let's just put that to 2,500 for the moment. I think it'll start to descend on its own. I think we'll be fine. Not sure what's going on with that all of a sudden. But... yeah, so it's not in altitude hold mode, it's in VNAV path mode now, which is interesting. So it says at TEL2, which is still a little ways out, we're supposed to still be at flight level 260, but then we're supposed to be at 7,000 here at Laurel, 3,000 at the BKY 10 here, so and then 2,500 where we really need to be. So we'll see if it works right. Again, not sure why it's not showing me distance to top of descent. It was before, so we'll see what happens with that. Everything's a good time here. Let me just go over here to my checklist again really quick, and I have to scroll down because I had to restart SimToolkit Pro. It was just being weird. And it doesn't show anything for a descent checklist or anything like that. So we pretty much have everything good to go. Not too worried about any of it. We're going to press on, and when we get close to the approach, one way or another, I'm going to make sure that we're where we need to be. And then, oh, I just realized the speed brake's still armed. Awesome. One way or another, we're going to be where we need to be, and then we'll fly the approach. Alrighty, folks. So the aircraft did something really weird. It just completely bypassed that circle and cut straight onto the excuse me, the latter portion of it. Let's listen to the ATIS real quick just so you can hear it.
Stansted Airport Information Whiskey 0600 Zulu. Wind 2 tree 2 at 26. Visibility tree. Sky condition clear. Temperature tree 0. Dew point 10. Altimeter tree 0.06. ILS runway 22 in use. Landing and departing runway 22. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions.
Okay. So you can see the aircraft's going just kind of bonkers right now. It's going back and forth between VNAV path and VNAV speed, and it doesn't want to hold speed, and it's just absolutely being nuts here. So we're going to see what happens here, but it's going to be a little tough to get on the approach here properly, but we're going to give it a go here. Real quick, let's take a look at our approach checklist over here. I'm not even going to bring it over because I'm busy dealing with the aircraft. Oh, and I put it in the wrong spot too. Okay, approach checklist. ATIS has been checked, obtained and checked. FMC has been set. We're going to land at 163 full flaps. Briefing is complete. Recall is checked. Altimeters are not set. I was so busy messing with it's 3006. I was so busy messing with the descent rate that I just completely bypassed it. So anyway, VREF is going to be 163. Minimums are 200 feet. That's set. That's on the radio. Let's put this on localizer. We know it's probably not going to grab the glide slope, which is going to make this all that much more interesting. We still got a ways to go. I'm trying to get the speed down. It's not coming down. Like, this thing's just being bonkers here. Okay, let's take control of the speed here. There we go. Bring it all the way down. 168. Because this is just being a pain. And there we go. Come on. There we go. Okay. Now let's hold that. Let's arm the spoilers. Let me get to a proper view here. Tracker coming on a little jump. There we go. So it's holding VNAV altitude right now. We're already above glide slope. Okay. Oh man, this is just... And it's not even disconnecting when it does that, which is just stupid. Okay. Is the gear down? Gear is down. Next setting of flaps coming in. And yeah, so we just transitioned from the approach to... Or from... we just transitioned right on to the approach there is what we did. So... And just trying to get the rest of the flaps in. They're coming in slowly. We're a little high here, to say the least. So I'm just going to let that nose come over a little bit as our speed continues to drop. Go to flaps 30. We've armed the spoilers. Auto brakes are going to be set to 3. I got that from those charts. There's 3. Now she's going to want to try and nosedive on us, so we got to watch it here. We do have the auto throttles on still, so that's good. Should be getting on glide slope here pretty soon. We'll take the auto throttles off here shortly. I'm just going to let them do their thing. It is a strong wind. I mean, it's 20-something knots. Okay. Ooh, that is such a fast rate of descent. Just bringing in a little trim. Let's turn the auto throttles off. Now see, she's floating on us. Come on, nose over, baby. Oh, this is gonna be a tough landing, guys. Come on. Okay, let's listen to the call outs. We got plenty of runway, we'll be fine.
300.
Came in too high though.
200.
We're good.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
It wasn't too bad. Minus 409. It always does that. It just like pulls hard to the right all of a sudden, like I blew out the landing gear.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing.
Okay, not our best landing, but certainly not our worst considering the circumstances. Obviously, in the real world, the right thing to do there's 80 knots. The right thing to do there would have been to go around. But it's flight sim world, we can get away with stuff. Is that seriously an airplane on the end of the runway there? Come on, you're killing me. Okay, we need to go to the left here and then back. We'll just go down. We'll take this one right here. I'm not going all the way down there. Oy, oy, oy. Come on, baby, slow down. There we go. Well, at least we have something other than the carbon cubs out here. Okay. Alright, come on, get off the runway there, you. As I'm bouncing all over the place. Okay, so let me get the APU on. I have no idea what the aircraft was doing there. Now, obviously, like I said, in the real world, we would have just done a go around. We would have said, we're not doing this, it's too dangerous. I get all that. And I do like to have an aspect of realism, but there's nothing wrong with a good challenge in flight sim either. So while that is not the appropriate way to do that, I think we did all right. Minus 409 feet. That's a bumpy landing, but it's not a horrible landing. So let's just be clear on that. It's not an absolutely atrocious landing, but it is definitely a bumpy landing. Yeah, just not my best. But we did manage to get it on there. I don't know why the ILS glide slope will not capture on this thing. That's obviously problematic. But I guess the upside to that is I will get better at hand flying the ILS. Now, we didn't even come close there. We were way above glide slope to start with, and I couldn't get it to come down despite, you know, working to slow the aircraft down. But that whole descent profile was just a mess. So you remember the top of descent indicator on the progress page went away, and then it came back as we crossed TEL2, I forget what the name of it is. As we crossed there, suddenly it came back and it said, you know, 60 nautical miles or whatever. And then when it hit that point, it didn't start descending. I had to click on the altitude button here and initiate the descent. And as soon as I did that, it was like 6,000 feet above the glide path. Like, it was way off path. And I still don't know why this thing is trying to pull to the right. But if I just let off, so I'm not holding my rudders now, and it just starts going to the right for some reason. But anyway, it was like 6,000 feet off the glide path. And so I worked to get the glide path down, but I would have been fine. But that little circle it was supposed to do, where we were supposed to cross over the BKY VOR, go out to whatever that other waypoint was, over to Laurel, and then back over the BKY VOR, right? You remember me briefing that. Well, it didn't do that. As soon as it hit the BKY VOR, it hung a right. Well, then I went from being only about 1,000 feet above the glide path to which I would have made it on the glide path, or not glide path, but descent path. I was 1,000 feet above the descent path at that point, and when it skipped that little circle, why it did that I have no idea, but when it skipped that little circle, it put me at like 6,000 feet above the descent path again. I don't know why we're going so slow here. And so then I was fighting to get it down. I was trying to get on here. You know, I wanted to record. Obviously, I got to record, but we were so close to the approach, and the whole thing was just a mess. It was an absolute mess. So, but we did make it in. It wasn't the worst landing I've ever had. Minus 400 feet per minute is tolerable. Would have been a little bumpy, but not too bad. Again, real world, yes, absolutely. We would do a go around on that missed approach. We would not land that aircraft. Now, I do want to say, as we get ready to pull in here, I did load in an add-on scenery for Stansted here. It's a free one. I will try to look it up and put a link down in the comment section down below, or down in the video description down below, so that if you guys are interested in grabbing it, you can. It is way better than the default, I can tell you that right now. So, with that said, and with my... are you really going to just drive right in front of me? He sure is. With my my apologies and my excuses for what was not the greatest landing in the world, I'm going to break away, taxi the aircraft in, and then once we get in front of the parking area there, we'll go ahead and come back on and we'll finish this thing up. Alright, we got our taxi lights off. We're going to pull in right over here. It looks like it's going to be number 213. Start swinging around here. Of course, there's not going to be anybody out here to ground guide us. It is what it is. Let's make it around the turn here. And we're going to guess at where we need to stop, as usual. That was one thing. It was nice when we had like GSX and stuff, like when it would work. Let's be honest about that. It didn't always work. But it was nice to have the features available for that, right? So we're a little out of line here, I think. A little offline. It looks pretty good there. Swing her on over. And let's roll her in. I don't know how close I am to center there, because it's not like it was in FSX where the center of the aircraft was the center of your screen. It's not quite like that. So a little bit further. And let's just bring her to a nice, easy, gentle stop. There we go. Let's get those parking brakes set. Track our coming off. A little jump, maybe. Nope, no jump there. And let's roll right into our shutdown procedures. So just so that you guys are clear, we did take care of our after landing checklist automatically. So landing lights off, flaps up, speed brake down, weather radar off, which we didn't even have. So when we look at our shutdown procedures, so the anti-ice is auto, parking brake is set, anti-ice is on auto or off, electrical power is as required. So we got to jump up top. We do have both external power and the APUs available. So let's just roll right to external power and shut the APU down. That'll work out just fine for me, and that'll allow us to shut down the engines as well, because we're on external power. So cut off all 4 of these here. Stabilizer trim, it says to set it to 6 units. I don't know why they do that, but that's what it says to do. So we'll scroll that. Well, we're not scrolling it, we're moving it, you know what I mean. And there's 6 units there. Rudder and aileron trim are neutral. Hydraulic demand pump selectors we can't do anything with. We can shut off the fuel switches up here. So again, this is basically just a flow, right? So these guys got to go off. Your yaw dampers would go off. You know, your packs go off or on dependent. It's as required. IRS, we're going to leave that on for now. Transponder code, you would put that to VFR. If you're not familiar with VFR transponder code, it's 1200 squawk 1200. At least I think it's 1200. Is it 1200? Boy, it's been a long time since I did a VFR transponder code. I think it's 1200 though. At least that's what it is in the States. I don't know, maybe it's different over in Europe. IGSS is good. Gear brake temperature, so it wants you to check that. So if you go up here, my mouse is starting to act up again. I don't think this actually shows information. I don't, because our brakes would still be hot, let's be honest. Let's see, transponder code VFR, gear brakes good, IRS mode selectors, we're not going to turn those off. Windshield protection, we can't do anything with that anyway. So our shutdown checklist: hydraulic pumps off, parking brakes set, fuel control switches cut off, fuel pump switches off, and external power as required. And that means that's going to wrap it up for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Now obviously we could you know, we could do the cargo unloading stuff. So like if we go in here, we could go to aircraft and we could say we're gonna need, let's see, cargo door could be open. That's this guy back here, should start opening it up. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's that's the aft door on the other side. This would be this door right here. We could bring the stairs over, see if they even come over. I don't know if they will. Yeah, I don't know. Cargo's not opening up there. Options, it's not that. I don't know why it's not opening. Anyway, whatever. It's not working. We could bring a fuel truck over, power truck, all that stuff. But it is what it is. Anyway, it was a good flight, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. It's interesting some of the challenges that we end up with some of these videos. I always find it kind of amusing, actually, how some of that stuff happens, but we managed to pull it off, I think. Let me know what you think in the comments, whether or not you think you know, for situations like that, should I just go around for the sake of realism, or do you like the entertainment value of me struggling to get the aircraft down to the runway without nose diving into the asphalt? Let me know what you think. Give the video a thumbs up if you like, guys. Give me some feedback. I love to know what you think about the videos. It really is, it's both an encouragement to me and it helps me to make content that's more suitable for you. If you think that I've earned it, please do hit the subscribe button. Click on the bells for notifications if you want to be notified whenever I post a new content. And let me know what you want to see. Remember what I said in the beginning of the video. If you were watching it, or if you're watching this part here, we can either continue to fly CARGOLUX routes, or we can fly wherever we want. It doesn't really matter. And if nobody gives me any feedback whatsoever, then I'm going to decide, and you're going to be stuck with it. Of course, you don't have to watch my videos, but there you have it. That's it. That's all. No more, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, as always, keep the blue side up, unless otherwise instructed by ATC. God bless you all, and have a fantastic day.